this morning of the huge earthquake that's hit Japan. It's the biggest to have hit the country in over 100 years. But how does it fit into the history of earthquakes across the world? And are earthquakes getting stronger? John Withington, a disaster historian and author of Disaster History of the World. John, good afternoon to you.
Hello, Ronnie.
Huge. That's the tsunami. They're talking now that the wave at the moment, John, is actually taller than the level of some of the islands.
That's right. We won't know for some time how devastating the tsunami is going to be. It's not due to hit places like Samoa and Australia till this afternoon, and I think not due to hit countries in South America till early hours of this morning. So, yes, we won't know. I mean, the earthquake is a very strong one, as you say, but of course the strength of the earthquake isn't the only thing that governs how devastating it is. And mercifully, this one, it looks so far as though the death toll is not as dramatic as it has been in some weaker earthquakes that have happened in worse places. So Haiti, for example, which we all remember, that was a much smaller earthquake. That was a 7.0 earthquake, because they're saying 8.9 for the one in Japan. But unfortunately, the Haiti one happened very close to Port-au-Prince, which is this huge city of, I think, about 2 million people. And so, as we know, something like 250,000 people were killed in Haiti.
Does that testament to the way the Japanese are building their houses?
Well, to some degree, I think. Now, you mentioned that this is the biggest earthquake in Japan for a very long time. There was another earthquake in Japan in 1923 in Tokyo, and that was a very devastating earthquake. And interestingly, this one, I'm just looking at the map, and it looks as though the epicenter of this quake seems to be about 50 miles out to sea. And that was similar in 1923, when about 150,000 people were killed in Tokyo and Yokohama, the nearby port, in that earthquake. And one of the things that happened in that was that a lot of people were cooking on open fires and open stoves, and they got knocked over. And Tokyo in those days was a city built very much of wood. Some houses even had some paper coverings on the roofs and walls, and so it went up in smoke. And actually, most of the deaths in that earthquake were probably from the fires that broke out later. But 150,000 people killed in 1923. Now, let's hope that we're not looking at anything like that number of casualties in this earthquake.
John, can you, because the way that the world works now, people conjecturing about that maybe earthquakes are more prevalent now because of us messing with oil and sort of digging, drilling, etc. Is there any kind of truth to that, do you think?
I don't think there's no evidence for that I'm aware of. One thing we do know is that what they call the Ring of Fire, the Pacific Ring, is vulnerable to earthquakes and also volcanic explosions, volcanic eruptions. So that's certainly true. As you mentioned, quite an important factor a moment ago, we have learned, particularly in countries like Japan, we have learned to try to build buildings that survive better in earthquakes. Going back to Haiti, I think one of the problems in Haiti was that Port-au-Prince was not a very well-built city. Things did come crashing down. But this is by no means, even the Haiti earthquake is by no means the most deadly we've ever seen. And if you want to know what was the most deadly earthquake, well, there's a couple of candidates. There was a rather mysterious one in the year 1202 in the eastern Mediterranean, so affecting countries like Egypt, Syria, Palestine, Iraq. And it was claimed that about 1 million people died in that. Now, to confuse the picture, there was a famine going on in Egypt at the same time, and it may be that some of the figures got a bit mixed up. So that figure is slightly dubious. However, if you go back to 1556 in China, it's pretty generally accepted that something like 830,000 people, yes, 830,000 people were killed in an earthquake there. And one of the factors there was that a lot of people were living in caves that they'd gouged out of the ground. And of course, those just collapsed when the earthquake started. So I'm happy to say that there doesn't appear to be any evidence that things are getting worse.
John, fascinating talking to you. Thank you for your time this afternoon.
Pleasure.
John Withington, disaster historian and author of Disaster History of the World. And I saw on Facebook this morning some of you have got connections with either relatives out, I think it was Rita has got relatives out in Japan. Thoughts are with